if you got them.
Yeah. Your tires.
Tires.
Yes.
You just clarifying in case our audience thinks we're talking about like.
If they know anything about you, you know that doesn't need any qualification. I'm just trying to confuse people, keep them on their toes.
Speaking of smoke, did you know that the Olympic torch is going across Japan right now?
It is.
Or at least it's trying to.
It's trying to. Yeah. So that's what I want to talk about today.
Yeah, this is our last show, by the way.
It's our last show, which is sad.
Or our last show of the season anyways.
Yes.
So we will be back in, I guess I should be doing this all at the end.
Yeah.
But, I don't have any plan. We'll be back in September.
Yeah.
So anyways, but go ahead.
Yeah, just jump right into it. So do you watch the Olympics when they're on?
I don't know. My relationship with the Olympics is like some Olympics I'm like all in. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
You know, like when Phelps had that one Olympics that he just blazed through.
All the medals.
Yeah, where he got like 40 gold medals or whatever.
Any more than like one or two is like an obscene amount.
It's obscene. And he had like 6 or 8 or something. I think it was
8 or 9 that year. I got rid of it eventually, but I had that Sports Illustrated cover forever where he was just like wearing all 9 of them on the front.
Yeah, that's a big flex.
Yeah, that's a huge flex.
It's a super flex, yeah.
But anyway, so it depends on the year, depends on what's going on, I'm assuming.
Speaking of flex, my Lakers won last night. So I just want to make sure.
I wasn't going to bring that up because I'm actually tired today. 'Cause I'm emotionally and physically worn out from that game.
All right. Moving on. Let's move on from LA to Tokyo.
LeBron might get an Oscar this year. We'll see.
Dude, okay. For real. That was awful. I mean, I could not believe it. Like when you watch the replay, I was like, LeBron, what are you doing, man? That was awful.
He's taking his time is what he's doing.
Oh, man.
Icing him out.
Man.
Anyways.
Was it Draymond who threw out that block?
He's the one who put his hands up, yeah.
In the vicinity of LeBron's face.
Near his face. Yeah. If we keep talking about this, I'm going to say sinful things. So let's talk about another athletic event, which is the Olympics, which is... I don't know. We love watching it, winter or summer. It's just kind of cool. It's like something that like everyone's sort of watching at the same time.
I don't understand it, though. I don't understand why once every 4 years... You know, all of a sudden we're interested in, the long distance ski jump.
I know.
You know, we're just like, oh, he nailed it. You know what? His form was not
That's
good.
right.
I'm not watching this at any other point of my life. Now all of a sudden I care about this guy's form.
And we all become like professionals on like, oh, that was a stumble. They're definitely taking 0.2 of a point off for that. It's like,
I saw a wobble. Yeah.
By the way, can you pass the chips? And it's like we're just become experts in something that has nothing to do. So obviously they were canceled last year. The Summer Olympics 2020 were supposed to happen. We all know why they were canceled.
There's a bunch of people listening right now going, what?
Oh, I missed it. Yeah, we all missed it. But it was all with don't worry. It's coming back next year.
Yeah. And what it's starting to feel like is it?
Is it though?
Yes. We don't know.
So
like one of the cities, right, was like, don't bring that torch through here.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be in Japan this year.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of local people that are not very excited about the Olympics being there because of the state of...
It's like 60%, right? Or like, we don't want it.
We don't want this. Yeah. Yeah.
And for context, it's because there's like some COVID surges going on. And you know, they don't want a bunch of tourists coming in, and then whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the reason I want to talk about this is less COVID itself and more like this is such an interesting stage that's really exposing a lot, I think, about the Olympics, about the world, about because normally it's there have definitely been seasons. I forget if it was the World Cup or the Olympics that was in Rio, down in Brazil. And I don't know a lot about it, but apparently Rio is like a fairly wealthy city, but all around it are like slums.
Yeah.
And there was this
That's totally true.
There was this hypocrisy. It was like, wow, we're going to like celebrate the city and, talk about how cultured the city is. And here we have like, I'm pretty sure it was World Cup. I don't remember, but I apologize. But but it was this like great inequity that, or inequality that was like, hey, while you're all celebrating and having fun, there's like people who are starving to death on the outside. And so it was, there's always been sort of that. There have been
this tension,
protests in the past with Tibet, and
the bigger the stage, the bigger the protest.
Exactly.
Always.
Right.
Now, sometimes those protests are largely deafened by how big the stage is.
Exactly. Yeah.
And other times they're not. And in this case, it seems like not.
Well, and that's the thing. It's normally like, no one would say this, but what happens is, oh, that's like too bad that that's happening, but we have to have the Olympics. These athletes have trained their whole lives. Yeah. It's a worldwide celebration where we all come together and celebrate.
I just don't know, man. When you got like 60% of the population that doesn't want you there, like, I don't know. No matter what you feel on this whole thing, I'm just not sure, like, that seems like an awfully big, like, middle finger to the entire group of people.
Well, and you think of all the people that have to staff it as well. Are, whether or not they feel like it, or in a way being forced to be there to make sure the event happens. And
well, this guy's like in a lose-lose situation because Japan's an honor culture. Yeah, and so like one of the things that the article points out is like South Korea was able to pull this off. China was able to pull those. Now, all that. That being said, they didn't have a pandemic to worry about.
Right,
okay,
right.
But nonetheless, the Olympics have been in recent history all over that region. Yeah, this was supposed to be Japan's kind of turn to shine, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah,
and so it's like, so if he cancels it, it sends this one message, that we can't handle the current COVID wave, that we, couldn't pull this off, that we're not doing a good job, and that we can't show honor to Japan, right? If we have it, you've got 60% of the people that are pissed off, and some of them worried about a super spreader event,
totally.
So you have all this. It feels lose-lose. I do not want to be this guy.
No, for sure. Yeah. It says that he's prioritizing public health and would, quote, never put the Olympics first, but public opinion's against him right now. It's just, I don't envy that position. And the other thing I think is just so interesting about this is, it's highlighting how every part of the world is like not on the same page right now. Yeah. And it's like, there's countries where it's like, we got high vaccine rate, like let's get there, let's do the Olympics. And you got places like India that are like, Olympics are like the last thing on our mind right now. Like, all of our family is dying. And so it just
and you've got this guy, this professor over at UCSD, they quoted him and he says this, open quote, "I don't know if the international prestige of holding the Olympics is worth it for the potential domestic public health event," close, end quote. Yep. And so it's like, I wrote here in the margins is like, I don't know, man, we'll do a lot for prestige. Yep. We'll override a lot of conviction if the payoff is a bunch of prestige on the other end.
Yeah. And so, and they, of course, in the article quoted athletes who were being very mindful and open, but I bet there's a ton who are like, if I don't compete this year, I'm going to lose it.
I'm never going to be. Well, I'm never going to be able. It might be my last chance to compete.
Right. That's right.
Think about it this way: there are a whole bunch of athletes that this is their first time, and potential only time to be able to compete in the Olympics. Yeah. And I can't imagine what they're wrestling through. They probably are like, well, I don't want to take off 60% of the population. I don't want to. Be a public health event, but man, this is my one chance.
Yeah, so a lot of us think, like, I think of Phelps, who had he was in the Olympics since he was 15. Yeah. So he had 4 or 5 Olympics, which is very rare.
I think he's a robot.
Yeah, he is.
No. Like really a robot. I think he's an android.
Yeah, designed by
the United States government.
Yeah, exactly. To win gold medals.
I don't think he's a real person.
And they just turn him off. And,
they do. Yep.
Occasionally post pictures so we know that he's alive.
They'll reboot him again for this one. So.
That's right. Yeah, man, he was a machine, literally and
Well, wasn't he going to be in this one?
I thought he was done. I'm not sure, though.
I thought he was going to be in this one.
Oh, man.
That was the thing.
The grandpa year.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anyways.
But for, you know, Usain Bolt was in like a few, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, just because of situations and life stage, it's like they get one Olympics, maybe two if they're lucky. And it depends on the sport. And so you're right. I mean, you're right in saying that for some people, like since the time they were 10, their eyes have been set on
Olympic
Tokyo
gold,
2020. And
because there is no professional, you know, ski jumping distance league.
Right.
So, you know, the Olympics are like the top. You know,
for
it's
sure.
not like a baseball player where it's like, oh, whatever, I'll go play in the MLB or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, no, this is the show. So anyways, you know, man, I don't really know where to go with this, except that I think that it's so sad too, that it's, you know, what's typically supposed to be, and I know it isn't, but this like very unifying thing.
Which just got me thinking of, like, you know, okay, Alan, how many things, what things have you historically been, what convictions have you been historically been willing to override? Mm-hmm. You know, if the payoff the other side is something that you really desire, and whether that's prestige or glory or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is, you know, it's easy for me to write an article for Newsweek and criticize this whole thing. Yep. It's quite another thing to self-reflect and go, like, this is what we do.
Yep, totally.
We override convictions all the time. Mm-hmm. For the payoff of glory on the other end.
Yeah, for sure.
And the kind of like, if we recognize that about ourselves, then I think we can have kind of a more, you know, nuanced conversation, because it's not just about on or off. You got all these athletes, their one and only chance. Like, at least have some empathy as we talk about.
I think that's
you know?
yeah. And I think that, you know, it goes without saying that the gospel is the only way to, like, to have a conversation like this without the disappointment and the pride, just like skewing everybody's view, because that's what's going to happen, you know.
Somebody's going to be disappointed.
Of course.
That's why this is such a lose-lose.
Exactly, yeah. So. And it reminds me of, like, say there's like a party you were looking forward to for like 3 months, and then it's like, through this circumstance.
Or let's say a ball.
Or Easter. You know?
You mean like a ball?
That's right, yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, you know, for this reason or that reason, it really looks like it's not going to happen. Yeah. And then in our hearts, we start to be like, well, that's a dumb reason. Or oh, like, that is too bad for them, but... Yeah. You know, they don't have to come. I can just go. And
that's
we start to do that, right? Because our hearts are so tied to this event or this.
When you're seeing that happen with people, and, like, you know, the whole vaccine movement, and you know, and I know we're not really talking about vaccines, but I guess my point in that is like, you know, well, you know, we can still go because we're vaccinated, or we can still attend. And so all of a sudden we're kind of overriding these, like, social contracts with friends and with family and whatever, because we really desire and want this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And Christians really have to be better than that, I think.
Yeah.
You know, or at least our goal is to be better than that, you know. Our ambition is to be better than that.
Yeah, our ambition is to bear one another's burdens in a way that reflects the law of Jesus. Yeah. And that's hard when it's something that we have put a lot of effort into, or intention into, laying that on the altar of being a good steward and witness is a difficult thing.
Yeah, because the glory, the prestige, you know, that payoff that you're looking for, you know, it really is. It's just more gospel issues again. We're back to the gospel again. It's like, you know, you won't be willing to trade glory for conviction if you know, you've got your eyes set on a better glory. If that's the best glory that you can hope for in that moment, you're going to trade it for your convictions in a second.
Yeah, and I guess that's really what it comes down to. Is if your glory is rooted in something else, then you're able to sacrifice more.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And, you know, listen, all these pictures, everything, you know, I mean, they have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars getting ready for this thing. Yeah. And then more billions because of the postponement.
Right.
And to then just go, I guess it's canceled.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Well, and last year was a postponement, so it was disappointing, but there was still hope.
Yeah.
Now they're like, no, we're not postponing it another. Yeah. We're done.
Yeah. If they do that, which they haven't decided that,
They've
right?
not yet decided. No, it's not looking too good.
Yeah.
Though.
The pictures. I don't know if you've seen the pictures on Instagram. They're stunning of the stuff they've built.
Yeah, I'm
and done.
sure. Yeah. I mean, they start planning for this like 10 years in advance or something like that. It's insane.
So speaking of Instagram,
oh boy,
did you see the article I sent you?
I did, and I thought that I was in a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, this is awful. Yeah. So apparently, Mark Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of and curator of Facebook, which incidentally also happens to own and curate Instagram, announced a couple months ago that they are going to start a new business venture, Instagram for Kids.
Yeah.
So basically what they're going to do is they're going to launch a version, a whole separate app and a whole version of Instagram for kids, targeting kids 13 and under. They're going to drive around in a panel van and hand out the app that way. I'm sorry.
I mean, we'll get there, but that's
anyway.
It's impossible to not go there.
So I'm like, immediately I'm like, can no one else see that this is a bad idea? So then I see this article, and I love the headline. It's the headline is, absolutely no one wants Instagram for Kids except Mark Zuckerberg. Yeah. And so like he's like staunch. He's moving forward. Nothing's going to dissuade him from doing this. Man. And so like basically what ends up happening is this last Monday, like 44 different attorney generals penned an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg saying, please don't do this, and then proceed to list into all of the reasons why this would be bad for kids, which we'll get to here in a minute. So I sent you the article. I don't know what your initial thoughts were.
Well, I read the title and said, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And listen, like we've talked a lot about social media this season, and that's been good. And you know, we both use it. We both, I still hold that it can be a tool that is used in a lot of redemptive ways for connecting, for promoting, for But we have also talked about how as adults, sometimes we can barely handle the thing.
Yeah. And to then put it into the hands of a 13-year-old. Let me just read you some of the things that they wrote. And I actually read some of this stuff, and I was like, this is all applicable to adults.
I know. I was sort of like,
this is all applicable to grown-ups, not just kids.
Am I a 7-year-old?
Yeah. It says use of social media, and now I'm quoting one of their things that they're trying to. So they're writing this appeal to Mark Zuckerberg to not do this, and one of the things they write is this: use of social media can be detrimental to health and well-being of children who are not equipped to navigate the challenges of having a social media account. Further, Facebook/Instagram has historically failed to protect the welfare of children on its platforms, end quote. I read that and I was like, I'm not sure I know how or am equipped to navigate the challenges
Am I equipped to navigate those challenges? I'm not sure. Depends on the day. Some days I'm like,
well, just like they're going into like all this stuff, like, you know, under the guise of helping kids stay connected, what it's going to just turn into is this big giant, like, comparison game, because there's, open quote, relentless focus on appearance, self-preservation, and branding, end quote. That's what you're going to introduce into, the worldview of young kids. And,
And I'd like to bring up, like, it's impossible to not sound curmudgeon-y talking about things like that. This, given our day,
especially me, but
right.
You do a better job than I do. I just feel like when I talk about it, I'm just like, I don't know.
That's because I'm a millennial, I guess.
Yeah, I look like Clint Eastwood sitting on a porch.
That's right.
So, but anyway,
where was I going?
It's impossible.
It's impossible to, but. you know, like this shouldn't be in the hands of kids. But like, man, a 7-year-old doesn't need to be thinking about building a brand.
Yeah.
Or
even like, hey, you know, how many likes did I get today?
I just don't know how that benefits someone who's that young.
Yeah.
You know,
they wrote this thing, like Zuckerberg's thing is, this is how we're going to help kids stay connected. No, you're not.
Yeah.
We all know deep down inside that social media is actually not how we're actually connected.
Yeah.
It's a good tool to do pseudo connections with people who you don't have proximal space with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not actual connection.
Yep. And I would even concede, I'm going to say this. If there was a teenager who had like an entrepreneurial bent and wanted, we've known people who've done this and want to use that as a way to like, that's amazing and awesome. Great.
Sure.
That's way different than saying, here, 9-year-old, build your Instagram brand, but it's for kids, so it's okay.
Well, or just like, this guy named Tony who lives down the street wants to be friends with me.
Yeah, that was the other thing
it says
highlighted.
He's 12, but his profile picture, it looks like the ice cream man.
Got a lot of stubble. Yeah, right. I highlighted this in red. It's worth noting that Messenger Kids, which I guess was the Facebook equivalent of this, was also extremely controversial when it started, and only became more concerning after a bug allowed thousands of children to enter group chats with unknown adults of all ages. And then, in parentheses, Facebook has said that the glitch was resolved, of course.
I read that and I was like horrified. I was like, that should have been the first thing that was totally secure.
Yeah, totally locked down.
How did that end up being like as an afterthought where they're like, oh, anybody can go in there. We should close that down.
Yeah. I don't know. You know,
it's like moving into a new house and we were like, we didn't put any doors. But what? You know what? It'll be fine for tonight.
It'll be okay.
For tonight, it'll be fine.
Right.
Let's worry about that in the morning.
Yeah. It's like, oh man. Like, of course that was going to happen.
Oh,
and of course it's going to happen with this other thing. And I actually don't know how they can. I don't know. Life finds a way.
Experts agree, I'm quoting the article again, that social media, in particular Instagram, can have adverse effects on children and teenagers' mental health, body image, self-esteem, sleep schedule. Instagram breeds an obsession with likes, popularity, and missing out on events that a user may or may not have been invited to because tools like likes and push notifications make the brain release dopamine. And I just read this and I was like, this is for everyone, not just children and teenagers.
Yeah.
This is the thing that's interesting to me. We realize that there is an unhealthy, the way we feel about this for kids is exposing things that we really know and should know for ourselves.
Well, that's a really good point because we've talked about it so much. Like we know the dangers because we experience them.
Yeah,
we know the way that this affects, you know, and we're quote unquote mature adults, you know, and you know, an 8-year-old girl or boy who doesn't know how to navigate those feelings. I mean, even without technology, that's a hard age to be because you're figuring out your friend group. You're, you know, maybe getting bullied for the first time. There's peer pressure. There's cliques. That all starts forming in elementary school.
Yeah, and can you imagine what they can do if they weaponize their social media account against one another?
Well, that's I mean, and
oh my gosh,
kids under 13 are just, they're mean too.
Yeah.
They can be. Even your precious little boy or girl, under the right circumstances, can be mean. And then you put that online.
Yeah. Oh, my children are savages. They're savages. So
Rowan's now at the age where it's like, I don't think that was baby innocence.
I think that was
willful rebellion.
I think that was willful rebellion. Yeah.
Yep. We're definitely like, oh, it's okay. He's a baby. Now we're like, boy.
I was around the bar trucks kid the other day, and he's gotten to the stage where they tell him to stop touching things, and he will pick up something else to touch the thing with.
Ooh.
I'm technically not touching it.
That's right.
This spoon is touching it.
Yeah. That's true.
Oh man.
So then, but in 7 years that'll be gone.
Yeah,
They'll be adults.
that's right.
They'll be mature
Well,
enough
that's
to
my
navigate.
point. Is like I'm reading these like adverse effects for children, and I'm like, oh, okay, so like we turn 18, and then we got dopamine on lock.
That's right.
We
Adults don't try to get dopamine surges in any other way. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I don't know. I guess where I kind of wanted to just kind of end with this is like, here, I'll read this last quote.
Yep.
There's a good amount of research suggesting that Instagram is among the most toxic social media platforms because of its emphasis on image and likes and followers, said psychologist Jean Twenge, according to NBC News. My view is that there is no way to make it completely safe for young kids. So here we are back again to the same question that we started with on this episode, which is, we are willing to override our convictions if we think that there's glory on the other side, if not for us, for our kids.
Right.
And so we just kind of have to ask ourselves the question, what is actual meaningful, and what is actually connections?
Yeah.
And only then can you answer the question of, is this really what you want to hand to your kids to make meaningful connections?
Yeah. Well, and connections and friendships take a lot of work, and they are inherently painful, and they are hard. It's hard to be a person that people want to be friends with, and to be a good friend, and I'm not convinced that adding a digital component to that actually equips young people to do that. I think it's an out. I think it's because as adults, it's an out,
I would just encourage parents to put off as long as possible. At some point, listen, they're going to have to enter into the digital world, okay?
This last year was that for everybody.
Yeah, for all kids going to school, everything. So put it off as long as possible. Why introduce them to the solicitation of one's image or branding in order to achieve the most amount of attention as possible? That can't serve them well as adults. Teach them what it means to have meaningful connections. Give them some Lincoln Logs, something else,
something tactile, something physical.
Don't override your convictions for the sake of glory for you or your children.
Right. Well said.
So let's end there.
Yeah.
We'll be back in September.
Yep.
This was an interesting season, to say the least. And I guess goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you all.
Auf Wiedersehen. Bye, Sweden.
Bye, Sweden.